I would never fall in love again.
She'll be the best you ever had if you let her.
I don't understand anything you're doing or saying, and it's killing me.
Peter, how are you doing that?
I don't know, Lois. I'm scared.
I'll try not to starve myself.
Am I weird? Yeah, but so what? Everybody's weird.
Intertwined some. Marceline, is it just you and me in a cage of the world? That must be so confusing for.
My dearest Allie, couldn't sleep last night because I know that it's over between us. And if in some distant place in the future we see each other in our new lives, I'll smile at you with joy and remember how we spent.
Maybe I did some things I shouldn't have done, but I didn't deserve that.
What is it? What's wrong?
I didn't think anyone noticed me.
I ask you how you're doing and I let you lie.
I miss you, and I will always miss you, but I cannot live like that.
Manipulated the fuck out of me. Like, I truly thought he was this great dude because in the first 4 months of our relationship he was. That's who he showed me. That's what, like, I thought. That's who I fell in love with. I fell in love with this person that doesn't exist.
So write me a letter, I'll always be right here, closer to you. You had me the whole way through, but I couldn't say the words like you. I was scared and to go, but I wanted to. Your new girl is my clone. People think I didn't see it. 'Cause I don't wanna be in love with you. Can't remember how to say your name, let alone count. So write me a letter, I'll always be right here.
I'm sorry I couldn't keep my promise. You probably don't remember, but I was really serious about building that gorgeous house with a big yard. A house on a hill where you could see the sea.
Just as hard, harder than you showed up after work, I'm bathing your body time.
It's not like me to be so mean, you're all I wanted.
Do you know where the waffles go? Do you know where the waffles go? They go along to take your honey.
I changed jobs and cities. I hated holidays, babies, history, newspapers, museums, grandmother.
Take it,
gardeners have planted white roses when I specifically asked for red.
You could always paint the roses red.
What an odd thing to say. The gardeners have planted white roses when I specifically asked for red.
You could always paint the roses red.
What an odd thing to say.
Let it go. You can throw a party full of everyone. I was wondering, can you hold me? Did I cross the line?
I wake up and I think again, really? I have to do this again? Every time something big happens, I want to call him. He was one of my best friends, and he was like a brother to me growing up.
So write me a letter, I'll always be right here.
No, it's for the better. No, it's for the better. No. We said I wanna be in love with another. And you look stupid going out if she's got a pole. It's just like what, like, is she ever loved me? Like how much I loved her, it was just hurt so bad, bro.
There's nobody else for me, and I don't want anybody else. I wrote you 365 letters.
Oh shit.
My dear.
I'm sort of an audio geek. Sorry.
No, don't apologize. I love you. For being that way. I love it.
It's entirely possible.
Market's collapsing. I don't wanna be me anymore.
Man, fuck this movie, man. Man, fuck this movie.
Chasing after eyes. Eyes just around.
What's up, Sugar Sugar? Why are you crying?
I'm not.
You are too.
No, I'm not.
What is wrong?
I don't know.
Yes, you do.
I don't know what's wrong.
You're just sad.
He needs me, he needs me, he needs me, he needs me. 'Cause she couldn't be more different from me.
What if in God's eyes you weren't the angry daughter? What if in God's eyes you were just a girl in need of a present father? What if in God's eyes you weren't the daughter with a heart full of hatred and rage, the girl who wrote disturbing words on every blank page? And what if in God's eyes you weren't the daughter who blew up and threw a screaming fit, but rather the girl who kept her emotions inside until she couldn't physically take it? Maybe in God's eyes you were never the angry daughter, but rather the little girl who needed love and care, whose anger stemmed from a deep despair.
Sometimes in my dreams I see a life where my mother never met my father, and she smiles and dances barefoot in the kitchen, turns up the radio just because she can, and opens the windows in her bedroom. While putting clothes on hangers in her closet, she hums songs she used to love. In that life, she doesn't have me.
but she's happy. She doesn't brace herself when she hears a door slam, and she doesn't flinch at the sound of footsteps behind her. In that life, there's no one who makes her feel small, who takes the light from her eyes and leaves her in the dark, who holds her close just to keep her from leaving, who tells her he loves her while holding a knife in her back. In that life, I am not there to hear her muffled crying, to watch her force herself to be strong because she thinks she has to be for me. I am not there to see the dreams she put on a shelf, the ones that grew dusty and out of reach, sacrificed in the name of making a life she never chose. Sometimes, in my dreams, I watch her in that life, free of everything that bound her here, leaving dishes in the sink and following her dreams, not throwing them away for the sake of her children. And in this dream, I'm not there, but somehow, in that world, she feels whole, not because she's had me or anyone else to save, but because she finally got to save herself.
If you want the best sleep of your life, take your pride, move it to the side, and put on some mouth shape. Okay? No one's gonna want to sleep next to you. But the results are to die for. First of all, it's gonna snatch up your jawline. When I sleep, my mouth flies open. I don't know what it is, but like my jaw stops working, and I'm like gonna stop you from snoring because you literally can't open your mouth, so you can't snore. Life hack. But this improves the quality of my sleep so much. I don't know what it is. I think it's the fact that I can actually breathe through my nose like a normal person and not through my mouth. Once I put this on, there's no talking, so we'll link it down below. Y'all need to try this.
I don't think I will ever recover after learning about what happened to Annalise Michel and listening to the audio tapes of her exorcism. On July 1st, 1976, 23-year-old Annalise Michel would die after undergoing 67 exorcisms over the span of 10 months for demonic possession. What she experienced leading up to her death is horrifying. So Annalise lived in West Germany with her 3 sisters and parents, and they grew up very religious as Roman Catholics, and they went to Mass twice a week. When she was 16 years old, she suddenly blacked out at school and walked around in a trance-like state. Her parents didn't quite understand why, but a year later she blacked out once again. She was in bed this time and woke up in another trance-like state, having wet the bed. Her parents then took her to the doctor, where she was diagnosed with psychosis caused by temporal lobe epilepsy. She was then put on a string of medication to try and treat both, but nothing worked. And she was eventually also diagnosed with depression. By 20 years old, Annalise's mental condition got even worse, and it was at this point that she refused to be around anyone or anything religious. In 1970, she had a devastating third seizure, and after this, she started seeing the devil everywhere she went, and she would hear voices telling her that she was damned and that she was going to rot in hell. After 5 years of no improvement on medication, Annalise and her parents began to think that she was possessed by a demon. So they appealed to the Catholic Church for an exorcism, but initially they were rejected. They lost all hope in traditional doctors and medication, and eventually they stopped going to the doctor altogether. But in that time frame, Annalise's behavior grew more and more terrifying. She became incredibly aggressive and would hurt herself. She drank her own urine and would eat insects and crawl under tables. It got so bad that she even barked like a dog for 2 days, would compulsively do up to 400 squats a day, and even bit the head off of a dead bird. She would then resort to growling and was then taken to a commune. During her time there, she couldn't even be in the same room as a crucifix, and she would refuse to drink holy water. When she would walk up to the shrine, she physically couldn't enter because she said that the soil burned like fire and she couldn't take it any longer. Annalise said that when she looked around at the others praying, it looked like they were gnashing their teeth at her. It was there that she was determined to be suffering from demonic possession. In 1975, the family finally got approval from a local bishop to begin performing exorcisms, but this was ordered to be in total secrecy. The exorcisms would be performed by 2 priests and started in late September of 1975. Over the next 10 months, Annalise would be subjected to 1 or 2 exorcisms a week, and those would last up to 4 hours long. In total, she underwent 67 exorcisms, and the audio tapes from them are terrifying.
Nein, ich sag's nicht. Aber das Ding, das gäbe Sachen, wenn die Drecksau, die das haben ihn eingepflanzt. Ja, ja!
During these exorcisms, Annalise said that she was possessed by these 6 demons, and one thing that she said will forever haunt me. She said, quote, "People are as stupid as pigs. They think it's all over after death. It goes on," end quote. These exorcisms were so violent that she broke both of her knees and had ripped the tendons from continually kneeling in prayer. She also began refusing to eat food. On July 1st, 1976, 10 months after the first exorcism, Annalise died. Her official cause of death was from malnutrition and dehydration. She was in a state of near starvation for nearly a year, and she weighed only 66 pounds. Because of the state she was in, Annalise's parents and the 2 priests performing the exorcisms were arrested, and their case went to trial. At the trial, doctors argued that Annalise wasn't ever possessed, and that the manifestations of demonic possession were a psychological effect of her strict religious upbringing and her epilepsy. The defense argued that nothing they did was illegal, and in court they played the audio tapes from the exorcisms to prove that she was indeed possessed. They also said that Annalise was finally freed of demonic possession right before she died. It was proven that her death could have been prevented, and all parties were found guilty of negligent homicide. The priests were sentenced to 6 months in jail, but that was later reduced to 3 years probation and having to pay a fine. Although her parents were found guilty, under German law, they weren't charged because they'd already suffered enough. Several years after the exorcism of Annalise Michel, the Catholic Church took back the claim that she was ever possessed. I first learned about this case after watching this movie, which is loosely based on Annalise, and the movie still, to this day, scares me so bad. This is actually the only topic that I am genuinely scared to talk about. Like, it is such bad energy.
How is that possible?
Freshly Garden coloring session. Here's the page that I'm going to be working on tonight. This coloring book is called Girl Moments, Cute and Comfy Coloring Book by Coco Weil. This book is linked in my bio or found on Amazon, as well as everything else I'll be using today. Markers are the Ohuhu 326. Let's jump straight into this with a pastel blue for our walls and accents. I'm not sure why my body leaned towards blue today, but I think that it's going to make this little workshop look really, really cute. Using the same shade of blue, I kind of want to just go in with some oversized polka dots on the walls. Let's do the same thing over on this side. I'm going in with a turquoise blue and doing some weird abnormal shapes between the shapes I did before. I still have no idea what's happening, but I definitely know I want to go in with a darker shade of blue now. I've grabbed the shade Pebble Blue to satisfy my craving for something darker. I truly can't even be mad about how that came out. So now let's go into the floor with a super dark blue, something like Antwerp blue or a marine blue, whatever color I find first. Here we go. Antwerp. Starting with the outlines of where I want the color to appear darker. I'm going in now and I'm making like that little carpet that goes down the stairs. We're gonna let that ink dry before I color in my rug because I want the rug to be super bright. Now going back over to the carpet on the stairs, I'm using a blue-gray 03. Now I'm going in and I'm gonna add a simple little plaid pattern. Let's add some yellow to the picture. I'm gonna use a rose beige for the tablecloth. I'm going in with a forest green for my plants. And I'm only doing the top because I'm going to blend the emerald green into it. And we'll do the same thing down here. Let's go into our overalls using a smoky blue. Very quickly go over it with a colorless blender to give it that jean effect. This can be as sloppy as you want it to be. Okay. Okay, so I basically just added some glitter to my paint, some glitter on the floor, some glitter on the plan sheet to make it seem like she fucked up a little bit, wrote the plans on there or whatever, and just like tried to add a little something here and there, but I'm realizing I don't want too much. So let's go ahead and start doing our white highlights. I also really want to leave her shirt and her slippers white, so let's go in and make the slippers kind of fuzzy if we can. So I think that these slippers came out really cute. Now I'm using an Antwerp blue for my shadows. Using a neutral gray 5 for my shadows that don't need to be blue. Alright, and here is the final page. This coloring book is called Girl Moments, Cute and Comfy Coloring Book by Coco Weil. This book is linked in my bio, as well as everything else that I used today.
Here's the part 3 of my college roommate experience. So I, at this point, have still not confronted my roommate, nor have I said anything to her. I've only been in contact with my RA, and I've been getting bombarded by my mother to take initiative and to do something and to stick up for myself for once, and I never am able to do that. Which is why I get put in this position, because people take advantage of how nice I am, and I just always get treated so crappy, and I just let people walk over me. And I was so nice to her. When I tell you, like, I'm like, hey, like, I have this food, you can have whatever you want, you can use this, you can use that. Like, I literally, I wanted to be comfortable, and I'm such a friendly person that I was just like, what did I do to deserve this? And why does she hate me so much? So I'm to the point where I'm literally texting my RA every single day. I'm like, hey, update, this happened. We met one time, and we literally, like, verbally talked about everything face to face. And she was very like, oh, I'm so sorry that you're going through this. Like, we're definitely gonna get this figured out. Like, this is not okay. She shouldn't be using a lock on the door because that's my room too. And if I don't have access to it, there's a problem. And also mentioned some of the other things like, hey, like, her messing with your stuff. Like, this is definitely something that we need to talk about. We need to take to somebody higher up. Was it done? No. I got to the point where I felt like I was being so vulnerable because I'm literally crying to my RA at times, and I'm so upset that I got to the point where I was like, I don't think she deserves to know my business any longer. It's time for me to take initiative and go to somebody else. But then again, I still did not say anything to my roommate because I knew after whoever I talked to, I had to go back into the room with her because I didn't know anybody else. Thankfully, I finally did meet my friends on campus, and I was able to go over to their place when I didn't feel comfortable being in my room. And even they told me, Aaliyah, you need to say something. And I still did not. Reason being why this was such a big life lesson for me. It is so sickening to even think about the days that I literally felt so uncomfortable being in my room, whether it be just with her or with her and her boyfriend, that I ate my dinner every single day out on the back balcony in an area on a college campus that is not anywhere near safe, by myself, and I spent every time throughout the day that I didn't want to be in my room with her in the basement of our building. And I literally told my RA this, and there was times where I would pass her on the steps down to the basement while she's taking her laundry up or down, and she just kind of like gave me a grin. At this point, it was awkward. She knew what she was doing, and so did my roommate. This is going on to maybe like the second or third week of school, coming up on my birthday. She's been tampering with all of my items, taking them off the walls, messing with my shampoo and conditioner. And then one morning, I woke up with my sweatshirt covered in bleach. Now, not to mention, throughout this time, I had mentioned to my mom before that I have not been feeling well in school. And she kind of mentioned like maybe it's like a virus going around because it's like everybody's just now starting school. And I kind of just went with it, but it was like a feeling where I felt like I was like hallucinating, and I just felt drowsy all the time and just like lightheaded. And not to over exaggerate, but I am a very light sleeper. I wake up to every noise, every nudge, everything. And I was knocked out those nights. I was knocked out. So I'm like waking up, and I look in my mirror when I walk into the bathroom, and I'm like, what the is this? And it was just like there was just bleach on like my shoulders and around like my neckline. And you know how if you use like different products or something with like benzoyl peroxide that can bleach your stuff?
I didn't have anything and I didn't change any of my items. So I didn't even want that to be a reason that somebody was like, oh, are you using something different? No, I'm not. What the hell is this? So I took that with a grain of salt as well. And at this point, this is when like her like actions started to like change. Like usually we would tell each other when we're leaving, or like at least I would be like, bye, like I'll be back later. And she kind of just like would walk out now and just like slam the door, and like her and her boyfriend would purposely make it so awkward for me when they were both in the room and I was in there too, that like they wanted me to leave because they wanted their private time. So at this point, I gave them what they wanted and I was never in my room, and that just gave more time for them to just mess with whatever they wanted. So now I would come back and all of my lights would be unplugged, my TV would be unplugged, my vanity light would be unplugged, and my refrigerator would be unplugged. And obviously that means all of my food would go bad. When she would know that I'm like going out with my friends for the weekend, or I'm going to be over at my friends, she unplugged or turned the temperature, the knob, all the way to 0 on my fridge and my freezer. So this leads into my birthday. So the day of my birthday, she knew that I was probably not going to be in my room much. I was going to be hanging out with my friends. I was going to be out that weekend. And she plotted. Still coming back at this point to all of my stuff off the walls. Like this was just typical. This was usual. And I think at this time, like she stopped messing with like my shower stuff. But I kind of just like kept it away in a bin now, so she couldn't really touch it. And I was having to literally like hide all of my electronics and like all of my important stuff because I knew that that stuff was going to get messed with. Stay tuned for the next part of what took initiative on my birthday 1 year ago.
The case I'm covering today is one that has been heavily talked about, not only this week, but just this past year. I know that this case has sparked a lot of political conversations, and while I think some of those conversations can be educational, for the sake of this case in this video, we are not going to comment that here, because at the end of the day, family members can read your comment. Laken Riley tragically passed away at the age of 22 after her life was selfishly taken from her while going on a run around the University of Georgia back in February. Laken was a nursing student at Augusta University, and her passion in life was caring for others, and so she had such a bright future ahead of her in nursing. It is truly what her passion in life was. Her care for others allowed her to be an amazing nanny to 2 young children, and those around her say that her smile and her attitude were so infectious. She truly spread joy wherever she went. She had also been a part of a sorority, so Greek life and her sisters was a huge part of her life. And since her passing, Laken's family has made it their goal to continue honoring her in the biggest way. Laken often ran the same trail around the University of Georgia, and on Thursday, February 22nd, she headed out on her usual run at 9:03 a.m. According to the fitness watch that she was wearing, she had a steady fast pace until around 9:10 a.m. when she was suddenly stopped in her tracks. Around 9:11 a.m., a call from Laken's cell phone ended up going to 911, and I believe she called 911 by holding down the side buttons on her iPhone. So this is just a PSA. If you're ever put in a position like this, you can call 911 without physically dialing 911. A dispatcher answered, and you can listen to the call online. It is very, very hard to listen to, and not much was said on Laken's end, if anything at all. You could hear choking and you could hear a male's voice, and the dispatcher didn't end up dispatching anyone. I don't think the dispatcher knew what was going on. This has received a lot of backlash online because it's been said, like, if someone is not saying something on the other end of the line, there's probably something going on, and someone should immediately be dispatched to that location. The caller ended up ending the call, and the dispatcher tried calling back and no one answered. Around 12:28 in the afternoon, one of Laken's friends was worried that Laken had not returned from her run, and so a couple of her friends ended up checking Laken's location because they all shared their location on Find My Friends. They found that Laken's location was not moving, and it was around the trail that she usually ran. They went to her location, and I believe they ended up finding one of Laken's AirPods. They immediately knew that something was wrong, so they went to the UGA police and reported it to them, saying that something was seriously wrong. Then again, according to her watch, her heart was beating until around 9:28 a.m., meaning she fought hard against whatever was attacking her. However, not soon after the investigation started, her body was found around the route that she ran, and she was found unalived, and she had suffered blunt force trauma. An eyewitness who was running on the same trail that day told authorities he had noticed a man man who was very clearly not working out. He was not in athletic gear. He looked very out of place to be around this trail. And he said that the man was just wandering around this area, like aimlessly, like he was clearly out of place. Jose Ibarra, I think that's how you say his last name, I really don't care, a Venezuelan citizen, was seen at 9:44 a.m. on security footage at his apartment complex throwing something in the bushes as well as a recycling bin. The officers were able to grab whatever he put into the recycling bin, and they found a sweatshirt that was covered in blood, and on this sweatshirt there were long dark hairs that were caught around a button. And then in the bushes they found kitchen gloves that had been disposed of, and one of the thumbs on the kitchen gloves had been torn. But at 10:19, Jose was seen again leaving his apartment, this time with a trash bag that he took out. He was also wearing different clothes. The trash was, however, taken out before police could get their hands on it, so they have no idea what he was throwing away. I could assume it was probably the clothes that he was wearing when the crime took place. And then that next day, on February 23rd, Jose was arrested on counts of malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, aggravated battery, kidnapping, and interfering with a 911 call. So this is when we find out that he is the one who ended the call with that dispatcher. On February 25th, it was revealed that Jose had been previously arrested in 2022 for unlawfully entering the United States. However, he was paroled and released until like further investigation or something. He had also been arrested a different time for something involving a vehicle, I believe. I really didn't read too much into it. And then in May of 2024, Jose pleaded not guilty and his case was sent to trial. The reason this case has been talked about so much this week is because the trial just took place. It started on November 15th. And during this trial, it was released that he was attempting to grape Laken. However, she fought so hard against him, and that is why he ultimately ended up taking her life. His DNA was found underneath her fingernails as well as on her cell phone screen from when he had ended that call. The defense tried arguing that although the evidence was graphic and disturbing, none of it proved their client guilty. Excuse me? While the trial took place, Laken's family had to sit in court and watch the body camera footage of the officer who found her body. Her mother stepped out of the courtroom before this was played, but the rest of her family stayed, which I personally think is very powerful. It was revealed that before he took Laken's life, he had been watching another UGA student in her apartment while she showered. He also tried entering her apartment multiple times. He did receive a peeping Tom charge. On the fourth and final day of her trial, Jose was found guilty on all counts. I believe it was 9 different counts. And he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. I'm sure most of you watching have heard this case. There has been a lot of coverage on this app, on Instagram, on news outlets of this case this week. A lot of different like true crime creators have covered this case this week. But it's definitely one that deserves to be talked about. I've seen so many things on TikTok this week of women going out on runs in honor of Laken. Again, I think it is so important that when we're having a conversation about this case, it is to honor her, because at the end of the day, that's all that matters.